In Britain this weekend, as we speak, there have been an unprecedented number of rallies, protests, marches and so on against immigration. Now, this is a massive backlash against years, really, and it's still going on, where people are silenced in Britain if they raise any questions about immigration. As I said before, they're immediately called a racist, and the police will knock on their door in the middle of the night because they said something on social media posts that they were uncomfortable about the number of illegal immigrants in the local hostel, and so on and so forth. Well, now the people of Britain seem to have had enough. There have been unprecedented number of protests across the country. Of course, you won't see this on most of the mainstream news. But here's one woman speaking up. Have a listen.
We are the mothers of Nuneaton, the mothers of England. We will no longer be silenced. Stop the rape of our children.
Stop the rape of our children. That also, obviously, James, has echoes of the Rotherham scandal and so on.
The Rotherham scandal, which is massive, and it still is reverberating today. You know, thousands of white girls raped by, mostly, it has to be said, Pakistani migrants. And the thing is that today you've got still boats coming every single day. And the thing that really galls people in the UK is, you know, it's not that they're anti-migrant. It's the fact that they see these migrants being snuck into their communities, put into hotels, put up, given, hotels, food, shelter, welfare, everything, while there's huge waiting lists for housing. There's a huge housing crisis in Britain. And, you know, there's every single day or week you hear stories about people who've just arrived and then committed some sort of allegedly unspeakable crime. And people are absolutely fed up. The Starmer government, Labour, in fact, all of official Britain now is absolutely terrified that the country is coming apart. And so instead of dealing with the problem, they've turned on the British people. This is just horrific for democracy. It's horrific for free speech. It's horrific for liberty. And, you know, this is the issue that is going to tear the country apart. It is why Reform is doing so incredibly well. Nigel Farage and Reform are doing so incredibly well in the polls. The Tories have been absolutely nowhere on this.
Well, there's a task force now where they're going to be focusing purely on anti-immigration posts and speech.
Great.
This is their Keir Starmer government response to this, is to censor and to clamp down on free speech, to make people scared, because you can post something that's entirely reasonable, not threatening, not inciting violence, and get a knock on your door with police asking you to explain what someone has deemed an offensive post. So that's happening. But in many ways, I think overall, when you look at the UK, certainly when you look at America, they are better off than we are, because at least there is a debate. You do have Reform there, and they are, in certain opinion polls, leading. So if there was an election today, you could have Nigel Farage as the Prime Minister. So there is actually a mainstream political party now that is fighting for the views of these people. We actually don't have this in Australia right now, whether we're talking about net zero, whether we're talking about big Australia, big migration, whether we're talking about free speech and what's happening with the e-safety commissioner. We've got this uni-party arrangement that we saw throughout COVID as well, where... and I think in many ways we may look at the UK, we may look at the US and go look at the division, but the division reflects that there is actual real debate happening, and you've got mainstream political forces, so people can make a decision. That's what a democracy is supposed to be.
And this isn't going to, and you know, this situation where, you know, everybody says in Australia, oh, well, you know, we're not like America, we're not like Great Britain, you know, we do things differently, we do our politics differently in Australia. I don't think that that is going to hold for very much longer. You know, you look at regional Australia, you look at the way people are being absolutely torn apart in some of these communities by renewable energy, you look at the way people are doing it tough because of their energy bills. You look at all of the flow-on effects of this big Australia policy, and just a week or so ago, Labor announced, oh, well, we'll just bring in another extra 25,000 student visas here, just throw them into the mix. You know, we have such a massive number, more than any other country, of people who are simply here on student visas. People see that it's not just changing the housing market and, services and traffic, but also, there's a real change in the culture going on. You see what's happening in Canada with that. People are not going to stay silent about that forever. And, right now you've got the Liberals who aren't really saying anything. You've got some people in the Nats like Barnaby Joyce who are really firing up, particularly on net zero, which is great. But then, you will have some other groups that are going to start to coalesce and say to the Liberals, you have got to either get your act together on this stuff, because they don't know what they're doing about immigration, really. They just, they kind of let that student visa thing ride, and they've said, we want to be more in touch with migrant communities. Maybe some of our rhetoric wasn't too helpful in the last election. And that's wishy-washy, and that's the way you keep losing. But that's also the way you do wind up with Farage or Trump-style politics here. And a lot of people are going to just welcome that because they want, as you say, Rowan, the debate.
If you want to get in touch with migrant communities, a better way may be to tap into the aspirational nature of those communities, the fact that they want lower taxes, they want less regulation because they come here often with nothing and they can build enormous wealth within a generation if you just get out of their way. That's a way to get, and if you really want to get in touch with them, you would respect their belief system in the terms of they are often socially conservative. Give them a fight. Tell them their children aren't going to be indoctrinated in school with radical trans ideology,
Exactly. 100%.
all sorts of other nonsense that's all over the curriculum.